Welcome to the WriterDojo with your host, Steve Diamond.
Hey there.
And Larry Correia.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Today's episode, Character Motivation.
Welcome everybody to the WriterDojo. Glad to have you all back with us today. Larry, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How
are your allergies treating you?
Oh my gosh, my eyes itch so bad they hurt.
Yeah. I feel like I have like a fist in my nasal passage right now.
I literally have a black eye from rubbing my eyes. I look like I got punched in the face.
You got raccoon eyes.
Yeah. This is probably what Jake Paul's going to look like when Mike Tyson's done with him.
Oh gosh. So ridiculous. All right. So we decided we wanted to have a kind of a nuts and bolts episode on some character stuff today, Larry.
Yeah, because we try to interspace our philosophical episodes of writing, which we've had a few with some nuts and bolts advice. And right now I'm working on Graveyard of Demons, the last book in the saga of the Forgotten Warrior. And I was just actually, part of wrapping up a giant epic fantasy series like this is kind of fulfilling the arcs of your various main characters.
Yep. Yeah, I'm doing the same thing with Catalyst, the third book in the Residue series.
Yeah. So you're 3 books in with these same characters, and it's now a chance for you to kind of like wrap everything up. And it got me thinking about this a little bit, and also I saw some comments on the WriterDojo Facebook group recently about the nuts and bolts of character stuff, and so I kind of wanted to talk about that today. So I'll get a little specific. So I have this one character who has been both an ally and an antagonist, and he's one of the main point of view characters. He's probably one of the main 4 point of view characters as far as screen time.
Sure.
And a lot of this, it's Devados, who, if in this series, he starts out as the main character's best friend. They're basically brothers. They've come up together. And they were protectors together, so I mean like magical roaming law enforcement agents. And the main character, he's kind of opposed to the main character as the series goes on. I'm going to have a lot of spoilers. This book's been out for 10 years. But they become enemies. They become dire enemies. And in fact, halfway through the series, 3 books in, they fight a duel to the death. And the only reason he doesn't die, the only reason Devados isn't killed by Ashok, the main character, is basically the gods stop it. They give Ashok a heart attack in the middle of this duel to keep him from killing his former best friend, because they need him around. And as the series goes on, there's like this big prophecy from long ago. There'll be this great man who rises up and becomes like this pivotal, important person at this last moment in time, at the end of this age, at the dawn of a new one. There's going to be a king. But so what I'm getting at here, though, is let me talk about the nature of this character, this supporting character. Early on in the series, I established this guy as kind of the antithesis of the main character, and that the main character is based on honor, duty. One person talks about how his service is based in humility. Ashok, the main character, doesn't try to be who he is. He just is who he is. He's kind of like the living embodiment of the law.
Right.
Of honor, duty. He's fearless. Like, he's literally fearless. He's incapable of feeling fear. Devados is just a man. But the entire time, Devados almost equals Ashok in everything off of the sheer force of will. And so he pushes himself, and he's never, ever satisfied. And so I'm building this character. So when you're having a flawed character, you got to add these flaws in, but they've got to have reasoning for the flaws to make sense. Otherwise, they're just there. So I've got this guy who's jealous. He's prideful. And as we explore his background, we find that he should have been great. But his father failed and died. Actually, his father failed and committed suicide. His house was conquered. Everything that he should have had was taken from him. And so ever since then, he's tried way too hard to overcome that. And now I'm 5 books in, right? And I'm at the end of this guy's arc, and he doesn't have a happy ending. Well, it's just sword and sorcery.
I was going to say, there's
there's
not a lot of happy endings in
There
this.
are a couple. But one of the things that got me thinking about this topic is I'm 5 books in before I get to like why. Well, we know why he is, but we don't really know the deep why.
Right.
And the deep why is I get to this point today, and it's actually kind of made me tear up a little bit, that the last words his father ever said before he committed suicide was that like his father's failure wasn't his failure, it was actually his son's failure.
Yeah.
And so this guy's entire life, he had this burden on his shoulder where he thought he was the reason everything is wrong and he had to overcome it. And really what it was is the gods were kind of steering this guy to this point. They needed him to be this. They needed that strong ruler. They needed that guy who had no doubt nor hesitation, who had to prove himself better than everyone else in the world at all times. And so you got an antagonist, but it's like why that character is realized the way that character is actually a profound part of who he is. And when you get a character like that and the reader gets to those points, it's like, oh my gosh. So I'm 5 books in, it's like Son of the Black Sword is the name of the first book. The whole army of Ashok's called the Son of the Black Sword. But really it's that Devados is the orphan of the Black Sword.
Yeah.
His Black Sword was taken from him before he could ever have it. Because the gods needed him to only rely upon himself and not a sword. And it's like, oh man. So I wrote that scene today, and I tell you what, I got shivers.
Yeah.
That's 10 years of work, Steve. 10 years of work. So what I wanted to talk about today, that was a long intro.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to talk about today, though, is that character payoff of creating those fully realized, totally real characters.
I think one of the interesting things, as I was listening to you, it was the patience involved in that character.
Yeah,
the patience of writing that character, not throwing everything at the reader in book 1. You let it build on itself, and you let it, for lack of a better term, kind of fully realize itself over the course of 5 books.
It's got to kind of percolate.
Yeah.
If it goes back to the old show don't tell thing, which we talk about, it's not always bad, but sometimes when you're got a character and a character is the way they are, you can just come out and say why they are the way they are. Mm-hmm. Other times you got to reveal it. You got to reveal why that character is the way they are. Either can work. I'm not saying don't just tell.
It just depends on the context and the situation, right?
Yeah. Well, like the first Monster Hunter, I didn't say I knew who Agent Franks was.
Right.
I mean, it's been out for 15 years. He's Frankenstein.
Spoilers.
I mean, his name is literally Franks. But I don't say that in the first book. I don't say that he's Frankenstein's monster. I don't say that in the first book. I say that in the second book.
Right.
And you got to kind of like let stuff build. You got to let stuff percolate. You can't pull that brisket out of the smoker too soon, Steve.
No, or it's tough and terrible.
Steve knows. Steve knows brisket.
Low and slow, baby.
Low and slow.
That's right. Got to let that fat render.
So building these characters, honestly, there's points where you just got to kind of let it build, let it grow. Now, this is funny. Okay, this is not canon, but I was waiting in John Wick 4. I was watching John Wick 4. I loved John Wick, right? I was waiting for the revelation that never came in John Wick 4 that Winston was the father of John Wick's wife who died. Yeah. Didn't you think that was going to happen?
That would have been a really good.
Didn't you think that was what it was?
Yeah.
I thought it was. I could have swore it was. I would have.
Well, I mean, it would explain the loyalty. I mean, it would have explained so many things.
It would explain so many things in this show, but it wasn't.
No.
So as my writer hat on, writer brain, I thought that revelation was coming at some point. In fact, when they were going through the canal in Paris underground, I was waiting for that line right there. I was waiting for it and it didn't come.
Yeah.
But because that would have been exactly what I'm talking about. Slow burn, get that brisket tender.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Because they've shown us who they are. So that's one of the things when you're realizing these characters, something about show, don't tell. If you can show me who a character is through their actions, through their deeds, through their words, that means more to me as the reader than if you just tell me.
Yeah.
So if I just said, okay, this character, this guy who would be king, he's an ambitious dude, he's a prideful dude, he's also a great man, but he's a flawed man. If I just said that, I just said it. But if I show him being great, yet also screwing up and making bad decisions and being petty and being prideful and losing his temper, but also doing something heroic. And keep in mind, this is a world where life is cheap. This dude does some bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This dude says some stuff that if it was in our modern days, he should be on crime for, he should be on trial for war crimes.
Yeah.
But this is one of the heroic characters of this world. This is a lot of villages.
Welcome to Sword and Sorcery.
A lot of villages get burned in this series. We're going to put it that way. The heroes burn villages in this series, okay? Bad things happen. But if I can show the reader what I want them to see, and also have it so it's understandable why they are the way they are and it feels organic to the setting, that makes that character so much more fully realized.
I agree. Obviously. Whoa, shocker. I agree.
I know
with...
that me and you who've written a book together.
Oh man, can't believe we agree on this topic. When I look back at, say, Servants, and we talk about Ilarion, right? The character who he starts out as versus who he ends up being by the end of the first book, they're very different people.
The seeds of who he ends up being are there.
They are.
At the beginning.
They are there. But if his whole village hadn't gotten massacred, this isn't really a spoiler. I mean, this is chapter 1.
Chapter 1.
If his whole village hadn't gotten massacred, those seeds would never have gotten watered the way they did. They would never have grown to turn him into this war hero.
He would have married Hannah and stayed on the farm. He would have ran the mill.
And everything would have been fine.
They would have had a bunch of kids.
Yeah. He probably would have become the next mayor.
He would have been a good dad. He would have been a great dad. And he'd help his neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
He'd do the right thing.
Yeah. And that's also a very boring story.
Yeah.
But that's who he would have been. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. But, the person that he becomes as a product of, other characters who he relates to, who he interacts with, the tragedies that he experiences, the triumphs that he experiences, they shape him into a different character to the point where you look at him and it feels natural. It feels totally natural. But you say, yeah, this guy's different now. He's different. You
see it, you understand it, and it's not told to you, but you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Band of Brothers?
Oh yeah.
I love Band of Brothers.
It holds up still.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Do you remember the early episode with Captain Sobel, played by Ross from Friends?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, keep in mind, this is a true story. They took a lot of liberty, and because real life Captain Sobel, from what I understand, was actually a horrible person. He was horrible. Like his kids hated him. Not a good dude. But look at how they show the storytelling in Band of Brothers is fantastic. But look how they develop that character and show him being a petty, bureaucratic, control freak, self-aggrandizing douche. Well,
I mean, look at, one of the really cool scenes, and I think this is episode 1 or 2. They've just run. It's nighttime. And he's like, okay, you're going to, they've just run or something. He's like, okay, you're going to empty your canteens.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to empty. So they all empty their canteens. I watched this not that long
ago. That's why I thought of it.
And they empty them. And one guy's canteen, there's not hardly any water in it.
Yeah.
He's like, why have you been drinking? I ordered you to not drink from your canteen.
You violated the direct order.
Yeah.
And there's a 12-mile run. He's like, repeat it.
Yep.
He has to go run another 12 miles.
And all this is pettiness and control and jealousy. And you see it all in one scene.
Yeah, it was interesting to me what a good job they did on this because...
Dude, this show's so
fully
good.
Realized character. Like, once again, it's a true story, so obviously. But the way they portrayed this guy, you know everything about him.
And you know it quick.
You know it quick. Then when they actually get out, when they're doing like land navigation, he's the stereotype of the like totally lost lieutenant.
Yeah.
And it's just a point, like, these guys are like, we're going to die. If we follow this man into battle, we're going to die.
They literally say that.
Yeah, we're going to die. They're going to frag him. They're going to murder him.
Oh, yeah.
To save their own lives. Mm-hmm. But then on the other hand...
Winters?
Exactly. So I talk about like Ashok versus Devados. You need one to build the other. Without Sobel, we don't get to see the character of Winters.
Well, you don't understand how honorable Winters is. You don't understand. You don't understand the love that the soldiers under his command have for him. The love and respect.
There's this power move in there where Sobel goes to Winters at one point and says, "Find me 6 men and their infractions," and Winters just kind of goes, "What infractions?" He's like, "Find some." And the next scene is Winters talking to his buddy, the alcoholic guy.
Yeah, I can never remember that guy's name.
From Office Space.
Yeah, I can't remember his character's name.
Yeah, but he's talking to him, and he's like, "So what'd you do?" And he's like, "I gave him so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, and I gave him the treatment." He's like, "Why them?" He's like, "It was their turn."
Yeah.
Because Winters knew that Sobel was a power-mad jerk, so he just made it fair.
Yeah.
But then there was a scene where he's berating Winters and he's beating Winters up for like some total bullcrap that was out of Winters' control.
I think it's the court-martial part of it.
And he's like, you know, I'm going to revoke your 4-day pass, or you can be court-martialed. And he's like, just take the punishment, Dick.
Yeah, just take the punishment.
And Winters just goes, "Can I borrow your pen? Can I borrow your pen, sir?"
Yeah.
Takes his pen, signs his thing. "I request court-martial."
Yeah.
Because you have one fully realized character playing off this other fully realized character, and it shows you both of them who they really are.
See, this is such a big deal in storytelling for me, especially when it comes to characters. It's the contrast. You can have, so for example, Residue, right? You've got Jack, the main character, who's, you know, psychic abilities, and you've got Alex, and her whole gig is she can read minds. And the contrasting attitudes they have about things is what really helps the reader understand where the characters are starting and where they're going on their arcs. You know, Jack is like, "Look, I don't know what's going on. If someone tells me something and it makes kind of sense, I'm going to trust it." And then Alex looks at everyone and says, "I trust nothing. I hate you all."
Well, it's because she's been reading minds since she's a little kid.
Yeah. And I'll shoot you in the face first.
And so she knows everybody lies.
She knows. But that's what the arcs are for these characters. By themselves, neither of those arcs is particularly special. But just as you're talking about with Ashok and Devadas, like the contrasting nature of them when viewed next to each other, they show how the sum is greater than their parts. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it helps focus on these different things.
That's why the hero and the villain are so important.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they bounce off each other.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue this, give you some more pointers on how you can make your characters more realized.
Wounded World War I veteran Elsie retires to a reclusive and mysterious house left to her by her dead father, only to be caught in the throes of love and eldritch terror as romance mixes with Prohibition-era dark magic and evil cults in this daring horror story. Elsie is a former debutante who only wants to isolate herself and heal from her physical and emotional wounds when a dark and malevolent hole appears in her fields. Forever Fields is a dark, historical horror novel with a romance subplot set in the year 1920 and is being published through Wicked House Publishing with a release date of July 5th. Pre-order is available now for Kindle, with paperback pre-order coming soon. The Writer Dojo has been instrumental in helping me write this book and get it published, and I encourage everyone to listen to and put into practice what they learn from Larry and Steve.
All right, everybody, welcome back. All right, so Larry, let's talk about some of the things that writers can do in order to make these characters feel a bit more real. So I think that there are some pretty easy tricks. Some of that is, I mean, look, we were just talking about Band of Brothers, right? It's pretty easy if you listen or if you watch Band of Brothers, or if you read the Ambrose book, that you can look at that and you can see how the building up of that brotherhood and stuff. You can see the influence that had on me and you in Servants of War.
Yeah.
You know, talking about, the wall and the camaraderie that they had and all that stuff. You know, we kind of have the political officer who's kind of sort of a Sobel, and, and then you have the kind of the Winters, which is more or less Chenkov, right? And then you have a lot of these sorts of analogs. And I think an easy tip is to look at these characters that you love, study them, and say, what makes them work? How can I integrate that into my fiction?
Now, this is okay because we talk about Band of Brothers, but and obviously it has one thing in that it's a true story, and these are real people. But there's also that element of just because it's a true story doesn't mean it's a story well told in the fictionalized version,
Right.
Because we've all seen historical epics that are boring.
Yes.
We've all seen historical epics where it falls flat. Like everybody's made fun of Napoleon movie that just came out, right? Which is interesting because Napoleon is one of the most fascinating dudes of all time.
Not in that movie, apparently.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So just because Band of Brothers, yes, it was a true story, these are real dudes, but you can take a really awesome story and then tell it poorly.
Well, I mean,
And they told it well.
Yeah, over the break, we were talking about the difference
Pacific,
of the Pacific.
Yeah. The Pacific versus Band of Brothers.
Which there are some just fascinating stories and characters within that,
it's amazing.
But when we talk about Band of Brothers, like, we know character names.
Yeah.
We know arcs. We know quotes.
So as far as
Pacific, we're like,
I don't remember anything. So as far as taking it, like, what can we learn from this, and like how we borrow these guys, take these successful archetypes, these fictionalized versions of these real dudes, and look at how they're told, and how do they tell that story. What can I learn from that in my own fiction to convey that kind of thing? During the break, we're talking about, like, my favorite character, from Band of Brothers, Spears.
yeah.
Well, so when we're writing Servants of War, and you've got the dude who will just instantaneously put it on the line and do what has to be done no matter what. So we're talking about it's like Alarian just stepping up, or we talk about like Chenkov being that good. So Chenkov is kind of the Winters, right? So Chenkov is that good officer who actually gives a crap.
Oh, he cares about his people.
And it's little things.
Yeah.
It's just the little things that he cares.
Yeah, it's the little talks in between grueling training sessions that he has with
I
Alarian.
remember there was a movie, We Were Soldiers. Bruce.
No, that's
Mel Gibson.
Yeah, it's Mel Gibson, right?
There's a scene where Mel Gibson is, I think he is the major. I can't remember, but he's looking at his junior guys. He's looking at his junior officers. And he's got like 4 lieutenants. And they're doing their things, but this one lieutenant stops one of his dudes, kind of and he's like limping on a march, and he takes the guy's boot off and like checks his feet. He like takes his sock off, and he's like, "Oh, dude, you screwed up your feet." And he's like, "You got any?" And he's like helping him with a like nasty blister on his foot. And Mel Gibson's looking at it, and he's like, "That's the guy." He's like, "That's the lieutenant. That's the dude right there." Because he was that little thing, he cared. He's like I care about my guy. My guy's in pain. I'm going to check his foot.
Did you watch the second season of Reacher?
Yeah, I just did. Yeah.
Okay, so the first guy that gets murdered, that they find the dead body of, it's like the aide to Reacher, right? In their special investigations unit, and they show how they met, and the guy's like, "Why did you pick me?" He goes, "Well, because there were 2 guys arguing over a package."
The cookies.
The cookies.
Yeah.
He's like, you ended up calming them both down. He's like, in a group that we're going to have, I need that guy. That matters to me. And And that's just one step to how they're building this relationship that they have, this brotherhood that they have within this group. It'd be really easy for them to just say, and they were all really close.
Yeah.
The end.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same as the scene where Reacher intentionally takes them into a bar where he knows that another unit is going to be pissed off and they're going to get in a brawl.
Fight. Yeah.
And he says, I wanted to see how it would go down. I needed to see it. I needed to see how you all would work together in a fight. And that scene tells more about the characters, and it shows you why they bonded. And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You as the viewer, or in literature terms, the reader, you get it. You connect with it immediately.
Yeah. It's displaying it in a way that the audience relates. It's like, okay, cool, I get that. And then the thing was, the guy ate the cookie.
Yeah,
that's where and that's why he had to break the two guys up, is because he's the one that
he's the one that ate the cookie.
He's the one that ate the cookie. He's the one that stole the cookie.
Yeah,
but it was actually that's a good point. It's any of those little things that you can make people feel real, and like this is a thing a person would actually do. One of the best compliments anybody gave me from Monster Hunter was, Owen Pitt feels like a dude I could stand in line next to at the grocery store and have a conversation. Like at the grocery store checkout. It's just how they put it. It's just like, if they feel like a person with people motivations and how they got there, and you show that, oh man, gold. I've seen a thing one time where it's kind of cheesy, where authors will talk about, well, this author has killed this many characters, or this author has killed this many characters, or, well, this author's blown up whole planets. Who cares?
Yep.
If I don't care about those people, they're just a statistic. It's like Stalin. It's like one death is a tragedy, is a million is a statistic.
Yeah.
Which tells you what kind of sociopath you're dealing with there. But
no, it's true though.
If you have, like, I've seen this with, like, amateurs will argue about the numbers an author kills. Professionals understand it's about the emotional impact of when an author kills a character.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, so-and-so blew up 10 planets. So
it didn't matter though. Oh, okay. I mean, that's Star Wars, right?
Yeah. Well, so like,
that was the end of Force Awakens, right?
The last horrible Star Wars, they blew up like 5 planets and no one cared.
Yeah. Because we had no context. We're just like,
who are they?
What planets are these? Why are the lasers curved? I don't get
why
this.
Why is this faster than light weapon visible?
I'm so confused.
Visible to the naked eye through atmosphere.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Who cares?
Right? You're just like, oh, okay.
Okay, so I like Guardians, all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but the biggest fail of all the Guardians of the Galaxy movie was the third one, where they blew up a whole planet full of, like, the weird little animal people. It was weird too, because you actually do see the animal people and you get to know them a little bit. And they're like, there's a cute little girl with a ball, and Drax hits her in the head, and you spend time with this family, like a family of weird animal people. Then they obliterate the entire planet. They just obliterate the planet, and they don't even, like, no one reacts. Like I guess here's our righteous anger. Let's go fight the bad guys, and they save some other kids, but the whole planet got blown up. And it just didn't matter. They didn't show us that it meant anything. It's funny because the same movie had this, like, emotional gut. Did you watch it?
No, not yet.
Okay, so there's an
you can spoil it.
Okay, but there's this emotional. So you get to see how Rocket Raccoon comes.
With all of the other animals, right?
He's got like 3 other weird little animals, and you get to meet them. And it's here's the thing. I'm not even a big Marvel guy, but it was Lila, Tease, and Floor. Mm-hmm. I can remember their names on a thing I don't really care about because of the emotional impact of this scene. Like, and they have this tragic thing that happens, but dude, it mattered. It cared. The movie made me care about these characters. It showed me their interactions and who they were, and I actually cared. I teared up. Mm-hmm. I'm a professional storyteller. I am a hardened douchebag when it comes to killing characters. And I watched this scene with these 3 little animal creatures, and I was like, oh, I started tearing up on an airplane.
There's a really good scene. I think it's in season 2 of Yellowstone.
Which I have not seen. I've always seen clips.
So there's Kevin Costner's character, right? And then there's the character Rip.
I have a hard time with TV shows like that though, because I live there, not in Yellowstone,
Yeah.
but I live in the West amongst the cowboys. I have a real hard time with some of these shows, but
Like the show to me overall is fine. I don't think it's great, but there's this really interesting moment. These are cowboys. They're hard. They're hard men. And, half their dialogue is grunts and the other half is drinking, right?
that's accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a moment where, towards the end of the second season, where Kevin Costner has given basically his ranch hand, who he raised as a son, and his own sons are freaking pieces of work. And he basically wheels him over this like old kind of cabin that's on the land. And this hard cowboy who is, he's been shot, he's been thrown off things, he's been in fights, he almost got eaten by a bear. All sorts of crap, right? But he sits down on the bench and he looks at it, and he looks at this letter, and he says, the guy's name is John Dutton, and he goes, he called me his son. And you go, dang. And the emotion that he conveys with it and stuff, and it's the contrast, right? Because you spend, 20 episodes, however many there are, in the first 2 seasons, seeing how rugged and how hard he is. And then to see that actually that's all he wanted. He just wanted to be family. And that's a real motivation that I think everyone can understand. And that's why it works. When you say it out loud, it seems like such a small thing, right?
Yeah.
But that's why it resonates with so many people.
If you show they need it, if you show it matters, then it matters.
Yep. And they showed it.
Yeah.
Because he could have earlier, in all the earlier episodes, said, I just want to feel like I'm family.
Yeah.
And that would have been really easy. That would have been like Prometheus level storytelling, right?
Yeah.
What's the line that she says in there? She's like, I can't have kids and I'm sad about it, or whatever. She like literally says this.
Yeah. And so she's going to get impregnated with an alien within the next
and you're just like
10 minutes.
Oh.
It's so bad.
Like it's so choreographed and predictable.
Right.
Right?
Trite.
Yeah. And this is why, no, I'm your father. Luke, I'm your father. That's why that line matters. Because you see the only family that you think he has murdered.
Yep.
You see his friends who become his new family taken away. And then the person he's been fighting against this whole time, turns out, nah, son, that's your dad.
Yeah. It's about stakes. It's about how valuable it is. It's about how much it matters. And you can make anything matter if you skillfully tell the story enough, or you can make anything pointless if you don't do it well.
Yep.
And so, man, it's a fine balancing act, and I think it's just kind of thing. The more you practice it with creating characters, the easier it gets to make it so that actually you can get those moments, you can get that hit, that emotional impact where, this means something. So, absolutely.
I think that as a writer, one of the easy things to do is to, like we said, one, look at characters who really resonate with you. But don't just say, wow, that's cool. Start asking why.
Yeah, why does that hit?
Yeah. Why does, like, the first John Wick movie, everyone understands why John Wick goes all John Wick on people.
They killed his dog and took his car that his wife gave him.
Well, and that dog is the last gift that his wife gave him. That's his wife. They metaphorically killed his wife again. Right?
Yep.
You get it. And you understand it and you root for him. And that happens real fast.
Yep. Very visceral.
And so look at these characters and say, why? Why does this character work? Or why does this not work? What is it missing? Maybe it's as simple as, well, they They just told me what his motivation is. They didn't show it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the amateur hour is this character is here for this reason, and this character is here for this reason, and this character is a stereotype of something. And it's like, who cares? If they live or die, I don't care. It doesn't matter. That's what separates like a good horror movie from a bad horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know they're going to die.
100%. 100%.
You know a lot of people are going to die. It's a horror movie. You know that going in. But if I give a crap about them, then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, now it's intense. Now it matters. It's like there's a reason for me to care. And like sometimes it's really shallow even. But if it's, as long as it's something relatable about that person, I care about them more than if they're just like person number 1, person number 2, person number 3. It's one of those things that like we've talked about, like books a lot of times. That's the problem with prologues.
Yeah.
You'll have a detached prologue where the prologue doesn't actually matter for the rest of the book. If it really mattered, it wouldn't be a prologue. I'm not saying that prologues are wrong. Sometimes prologues are valuable.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. But the problem with a lot of prologues is the prologue will have some characters that this is the only chance we get to know them. And they exist, and then they don't anymore.
Yeah.
And so we talk about the horror movie intro.
The horror movie intros, right?
Horror movie intro. To establish that the monster exists, we'll have a prologue. There's some other campers. We'll never see them again. They're making out. Monster comes and eat them. It establishes what kind of movie this is. They serve their purpose, but we don't care about them.
No.
They don't matter.
Well, it's part of the procedural element of the show.
Yeah.
Right? Like Supernatural. Right?
Yeah.
Like
the opening incident.
The opening incident of every episode of Supernatural is someone getting murdered and there's a scream.
Yeah.
Right? And that's because that says you're setting the stage. Here you are. Now let's see who the characters that you care about deal with that.
Yeah, every episode of Bones. Random stranger we'll never see again just found a disgusting body in some horrible situation. And freaks out as the gooey body falls out of the mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
Or the microwave, or the ceiling tiles, or whatever it may be. Gooey body in the bathtub. But the same thing. When you do that in a novel, a lot of times that's just a complete waste. Because that's a lot of space. In the TV show, we have this for like 2 minutes, and here's the opening credits.
Yeah.
Books don't have that.
No, we don't have that benefit.
No, we don't.
Right?
Plus, we're not a 24 episode, series of formulaic stuff. We're one and done. And then maybe you got a book 2, book 3. But the investment in time is a lot different too. So it's a totally different medium there.
It is. And this is why you and I talk about a lot, especially when it comes to short stories or the beginnings of when you're introducing new characters.
Yeah.
It's how quickly can I make you care about this character?
Yeah. What is it about this person? Then why should I give a damn?
Mm-hmm.
And then get there.
Yeah.
Get there. The worst books are to me, I'm a character dude. We've talked about this on the show, plot character.
Same.
I'm a character dude.
Same.
I'm a total character dude. So if I can't relate to the characters, if I can't tell the characters apart by like just dialogue and basic things, if they just are boring to me, I can't stand that book. Like those are books. I am a character dude, so I have a real hard time with books that have weak characters. Like on this show, we praise a lot of authors, but when we bag on authors, we never use their names.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of authors that, to me, the worst thing about the books is the weak characters. Like if the characters are interchangeable and they all sound the same and they don't have a purpose, they're just like a name and like their job.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? I just can't care.
Well, I mean, look at Servants, right? I mean, towards the end of writing book 1.
Oh, we had
we sat down,
minor characters. That,
we had minor characters.
About.
And even we had a moment where we spent like 2 hours. We're like, okay, we really need to figure out the actual motivation of the big bad villain.
Oh, dude, that was so good. We're
like, okay, why?
It is, guys. It is not what you think.
No.
It is a character motivation unlike anything that I've ever come up with before.
Yep. Turns out he's a manatee in disguise.
Dude, that would be less
manatee erotic fiction. Here we go.
That would be less wild than what we actually came up with.
Yeah. But the thing is
that done.
It matters, right? And we're not giving it away in the beginning. It's going to take a little while. Again, back to the very beginning, like,
oh, dude, I'm 5
have
books.
patience.
I'm 5 books in before I told this guy's whole story.
Yeah. Have patience. It's okay. Especially when you're writing a series.
Not too much though. Make sure you keep feeding them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep feeding the reader cool stuff.
And I think what you need to do, if you look at ongoing series, you see how bits and pieces of the character are revealed to you over time. You know, it's the breadcrumbs, right? And every now and then you've gone far enough to where there's a big old chunk of bread for you to enjoy, and then there's more breadcrumbs, right? Think about it that way. Okay, what crumbs do you need to lead the reader on this path of discovery with your characters? And again, we've talked about some of the ways you can do that. Sometimes it's just studying and looking at characters in other mediums that you really like.
That resonate with you.
Sometimes it's seeing things in real life, you know, real life experiences, depending on what you've done. Sometimes it's the opposite. You're like, oh, dang. If they would have done this would have been really neat. Oh, okay. Well, now I have a character idea.
I can do that.
Yeah, I can do that. I can write that.
Yeah.
And so, guys, there's no one way. There's no one way for this. Don't be afraid to experiment. Have fun with it. But make us care. Because if you make us care, well, that's the majority of the battle right there. So, all right, that's all the time we have for you today. Again, if you guys have any other questions, you want us to dive deeper on any of these things, our supporters, thank you guys so much for being supporters, those of you who are. You can send in questions, and that's part of the perks of being a supporter is we'll address your questions first. Sometimes we generate entire episodes based off one question.
I think we have another big Q&A one coming up here pretty fast.
Yeah, we should. We should. We have a few questions. So we'll delve into that. And if you guys have any questions, now's the time. Get them in. And the next time we record, we'll address them. So anyway, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support. This is WriterDojo. We'll see you on the next one.
WriterDojo is Steve Diamond and Larry Correia. Produced by Jack Wilder and Bear and Hare Studios. Theme song, Word Mercenaries by Craig Nivo. New episodes come out every Wednesday wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/WriterDojo, by leaving a 5-star rating and review, and by helping to spread the word. To advertise on the Writer Dojo, email ads@writerdojo.com. All questions and comments can be emailed to questions@writerdojo.com.
I remember when Bob exploded.